Hi everyone. We had a great discussion today at the school about grading ourselves as students, as teachers, as people going through life. Really interesting conversations. Anywhere from age 7 to 50, we talked about, the students and I, about what kind of grade you would give yourself as a martial arts student, and then we broadened it into what kind of grade would you give yourself in certain areas of life. So I wanted to share some of the discussions because I believe that this is a wonderful practice to do with ourselves, maybe on a quarterly or yearly basis at least, maybe even more than that. First thing I asked is give yourself a grade as a martial arts student, and before I did that I laid out what the grades would be. Now we have a grade from A, B, C, D, or an F type of student at the martial arts school that I teach at. So I said, well, what kind of student are you? Are you an A student? Are you a C student? Average? Or are you a D or an F? And it was really interesting in observing what people gave themselves versus what I would have given them as a third party looking in as a teacher. A lot of people gave themselves a grade that was far higher than I would have given them, and that was kind of shocking to a lot of them. They were shocked at that because I actually gave them the grade that I thought that they, at this point in their training, deserved, a grade that I would give them. And then a few people gave themselves a lower grade than they actually I would have given them. So they may have given themselves a C grade when I would have given them a B or an A easily. Now you ask, well, what's the point of this? Why bother doing this? Because you need to know where you are in the student base, how you're doing, not just by the teachers, but by your own peers. Are you doing the best that you can, or are you just scraping by? An A student in the martial arts is someone who doesn't just come in 2 times per week. They're there 3, 4, 5 days a week. They're obsessed with the martial arts. They're always there. They're always eager to help. They show up at every single seminar that you put on, any extra class that you do. They're the first person on that list signed up. They try really hard in class. They understand the materials. They study their curriculum at home, so they do all their homework. They practice at home. They live and breathe the martial arts. Therefore, they move up faster than other people. They understand the principles that you're trying to teach. They ask great questions in class. They're always really respectful of the teacher and the students, and if they're a teacher themselves, they're always respectful of everybody. That to me is an A student, someone that does it all, a perfect student. A B student is just below that, so they do extra well. They do above and beyond what other people do. They show up more than twice a week. They come in maybe 3 classes per week. Even when it's inconvenient for them, they schedule their life around the classes rather than the other way around. They try really hard in class. They ask, again, great questions. They challenge themselves and the teachers. A C student is someone who's just plain average, C for common. That's actually the vast majority. Not bad or good, they just come in twice per week, which is the minimum. They do well in class. They're not going to be stellar martial artists, but we don't expect everyone to be. You know, they do what they need to do. They pass their tests. They're respectful in class, and they just do what the average person would do. It's to them, it's kind of a hobby. It's something that's fun to do, but it's certainly not a way of life, and it's certainly not something that they're obsessed with or something that they live for. Then you have a D student. A D student is someone who barely gets by. They might come in once every 2 weeks, even though they should be there twice per week. They never come to the seminars that you put on. They never read the books. They never get the DVDs. They don't put forth any other effort. You ask them what a technique name means and they barely know it. They don't study the Japanese. They don't work out enough. They don't do very well with the weapons, although they can hold them and they can do a little bit. You ask them to perform a technique and it's below standards. Sometimes they look bored in class, disinterested, almost like they're being forced there by their parents. A lot of kids do that. So that's a D student. They just do the minimum. They're never going to be stellar at martial arts. They're never going to stand out. They probably won't be asked to become a coach or instructor, at least at this point. And then an F student is, of course, someone who fails. They flunk. They quit. You can't get a grade if you're not training actively. So an F student is someone who used to train and doesn't train anymore. Sadly, there are several of those. Now, why do they quit? Well, there's good and bad reasons to quit. A lot of people quit because they're lazy. They get bored with the training, which to me tells me that they're a boring person. If they can't find the fun and excitement in martial arts, then to me they're a zombie. They shouldn't be training. I wouldn't want to train them. I wouldn't want to teach them. They don't deserve to learn if they're not excited by the training, as I and most of the students are. And fear, self-doubt is the biggest reason why people quit. They get afraid after a while of the training. It gets more difficult, especially around brown belt where we do testing. They feel that they can't be a black belt, so therefore they quit. And it's rare, but it happens. Some people actually quit at brown belt or brown black, one belt before black. They cower it out. There's no other way to put it. There's no soft serve way to put it. They quit. They couldn't hack it, and that's unfortunate. A few people quit because they have to move. Of course, that's a very legitimate reason. If you have to move across the country to get a new job or to support your family, I'm with you. I support you 110%. And I'll try to find you a dojo in another area of the country if I have friends that run schools there. I will help network. I will guide you to a new martial art if you can't stick with this one. And some people can't afford the training. That's a legitimate reason too. If you lose your job and you can't afford however much it is a month and you have to use that money toward bills, perfectly understandable. Families first, so we understand that. There are several reasons why people quit, but I'm dealing with those who are actively involved, those students who are coming actively at this point. Now, the good news with all of this is you can change your grade. Going back, so asking the students what grade they were, some of them said, well, I think I'm a B or an A. And I said, oh, really? You think you're a B or an A? And then I would, of course, throw the questions back on them. How often do you come to class? Well, I'm here twice a week. I said, that's great. That means you're here 8 classes per month. You're a C student. Oh, I am? I'm an A student. No, you're not an A student. How about a B? No, you're a C student. That's average. Average is twice per week, 8 classes per month. Do you come to more classes than that? No. Well, that's a C student. Do you know the techniques for your required belt level? Well, I know most of them. Most? Okay, most is a C student. Oh, well, I thought I knew more. No. How often do you practice at home? Oh, I really don't practice at home. Well, you're a C student. If you don't practice at home, how often do you read the written curriculum that we give you? You should be reading that every day. Oh, I don't read it every day. How many martial art books from the school do you have? Oh, well, I have one. One? Well, there are 15 available. How many DVDs do you have? I don't have any DVDs. Well, then you're a C student. You're not putting forth extra effort like an A student would do. How many seminars are you coming to? You missed one last month. Well, I don't come to any seminars. Well, then you're a C, maybe even a D student, because you're missing a tremendous amount of material. Do you come to the weapons class on Tuesday night? No, I don't have time for that because I play soccer and then I do piano. Oh, okay. How about Wednesday night samurai budo class? Do you come to the classical class to learn the history of the 9 lineages that we teach? Do you come to learn the different weapons that you're never going to see in regular classes? No, I don't, because Wednesday night is my special night. I watch Dancing with the Stars, so I have to be home at 7 so I can watch that. and I have to be home at 6:30 to watch Judge Judy, and then I watch ABC News, and I eat dinner, and I do my homework, and I'm in bed by 9, well, then that's good. I understand that. You can do that, but that's a C student. So people were shocked, thinking that they were an A student. And it's wonderful to see, because that light that goes off, and we all do this, I do it too, we can see where we are when a third person looks at us and says, no, you're actually here. People don't like to hear that. They don't want to be categorized. They don't like authority when authority goes against what they believe. Really interesting to know. It's a human nature. It's a trait that we all share. It's a weakness in all of us. When someone tells you something and you assumed you were higher, and they say, no, you're actually down here, that's very hard for the ego to take. And I've been through it several times with many of my teachers. I thought I was better than I was, or worse than I was, and they told me a completely different grade than I actually was. It's a great lesson in martial arts. Now the beauty is, of course, you can change your grade. Within 2 weeks you can go from a D to a C student, easy. If you start coming in more, if you start showing up and really trying harder, if you ask better questions, if you practice at home, it will show, and the teacher will notice that. If you sign up for seminars on a Saturday when you could have been out playing at the beach or mowing the lawn, no, you're going to be here on a hot July afternoon from 1 to 4, learning about ground fighting or learning about the sword or something that we don't offer. You can improve yourself, and it will show. If you show up for the brown belt tests when they're required instead of skipping it because you're afraid of what we're going to do, because you don't believe in yourself, then you're never going to be a B or an A student. And an A student can go backwards, of course. There are times in our training where we'll be an A+ student. We will be the best in the class. And then things will happen in our personal lives where we'll drift off. I might get a job where I have to work until 8 o'clock at night, or a second shift, or a third shift, so I can't make the classes that the school is offering. That's fine, we understand that. These things will happen. You might have a child or something, a newborn baby, and you have to go take care of your family. I need that money for my family. I can't be here 3 nights a week like I used to do when I was a single guy. I'm a father now, I need to take care of my family. Perfectly understandable, you have our support. You'll know, you'll feel it in your heart when the reasons are legitimate for why you need to stop training or slow down on your training. A lot of people, after they get their black belt, get very lazy. They think that that's it, when actually that's the gateway to the first level. You're actually taking the first step. That showdown means first step. You ain't seen nothing yet, to use an old term, until you hit your black belt. Then we really start getting into the depth of fighting, the different principles that we just won't teach you until you've taken 5 or 6 years of training. Now, why I'm bringing this up, because the vast majority of you that are out there watching this probably don't actively train, or you might, that's great, but you might live in an area where there are no schools, or you have lousy sport type martial arts that don't offer anything for you, or you don't have the money. You might live in a country where there are no martial arts, or it's illegal. I don't know where you're watching from right now, but use this grading system in all areas of our life. Remember back in school, when we've been graded all our lives, we've been judged all our lives. Ever since first grade, you started to get grades. And if you did poorly in class, you got a D. You got an F. You flunked that test. You got a warning sent home. You had to have your parents come in and talk to the teacher. We've been doing this since the dawn of time in America, since we started. Up until 12th grade, high school, you get grades. You either get an F, a C, and B, or an A, or a number grade. Then you go to college and you're graded there. If you don't show up to class, you don't get graded. You don't get that degree. You get overlooked in life. You don't get that job you always wanted. You don't get your dream job. You don't get that woman that you loved. If you don't pop out in society, if you don't excel, you are going to be overlooked. That's just the nature, unfortunately, of Darwinian evolution. The strongest often do win. So how do I combat that? Because that's not something that I want to overcome that. Now, Here are the areas of life we should be assessing ourselves regularly. How are we doing in relationships? Are we an A husband? Are we an A wife? Or are we a C husband or a D or an F husband? Have I failed at my relationships? What's my track record? That's a great thing to ask. And ask your partner, how am I doing? To me, communication is what will make you an A husband or wife. Do you communicate with your wife? Do you not just tell her that you love her? Do you show it? Do I do it in acts? Do I provide for my family? Do I romance my wife? Do I listen to her when she's in trouble? Do I say the right things at the right time? Do I open myself up and communicate with her when I feel there are issues coming up? Or do I just blame everything? How am I as a father, as a dad? Am I a dad, or am I just someone that lives with my son or my daughter? Great thing to ask yourself. Because you might assume you're a B or an A dad, but you might be a lousy dad. You might be a D, barely getting by. If you're not communicating with your children, you're certainly not a B or an A. If I'm divorced, if I come from a divorced house, do I visit my children? If I'm not, I'm a failure, I'm an F. If I call my kids occasionally, I might be a D or maybe even average. But if I'm not, if I live close enough that I can visit my children, I should be visiting constantly. Every other weekend, every other Wednesday, 3 days a week, 4 days a week. Am I going to court to share custody? I need to fight for my children. That's an A parent. Doing our best to be involved with our children's lives. We know it. When we lay in bed at night, we know what kind of grade we have. So in my relationships, in my friendships, am I a great friend or am I a lousy friend? Do I just skulk around on Facebook, or do I call my friends and go over their house and have a cookout? Do I invite friends over? Am I there for them when they're in trouble or hurt? All great things to ask. How am I at work? Am I an A employee or a D employee? Do I skip work all the time? Do I despise my job? Do I make fun of my coworkers and try to cut my boss's legs out from underneath him? Then you're a D. All good things to think about. If I'm an A employee, I might work all the time. The problem is when you're an A employee is that you start to skip family duties. You might be an A+ employee and work 12 hours a day and fight for the company and make money for them, but you might be slipping as a father or a husband, and you might be coming from a B to a D because you're trying so hard to provide for your family. And that's the problem. That's that fine line that we run on, is the balance between the two. I can be a great father and a lousy employee, or I can be a great employee and a lousy husband. That's why it's so hard. And I might be thinking I'm doing the right thing by working 16 hours a day. I'm making great money. Wife doesn't have to worry about even working outside the house if she doesn't want to. Kids are provided for. They go to the best schools. Yet I'm never around. I'm barely a roommate for my family. I'm a lousy father. I don't communicate. I'm stressed out. I don't talk about it. I push everyone out of my life. I just want to sit and play video games. I don't want to be a husband. I want to be 18 again. You can see how these issues come into our life, and how to balance it is really difficult, but it can be done. Now, we've gone from talking about a martial artist in a very small bubble to how I am as a human being. How am I mentally from an A to an F? Am I always stressed out, always worrying about everything? Am I never relaxed? Well, then I need to work on meditation or something that can make me a more relaxed person. How are you spiritually? If you're a religious person, are you really being religious, or are you just faking it? If you're not a religious person, are you at least a humanist and doing the best for society at large? Or are you mean to your neighbors and spreading negativity in the world? As a general human being, how am I? Am I helping society? Am I using my life to assist others and help children out and help adults and elderly? Am I helping the animals in my neighborhood? Am I killing randomly? Am I robbing banks? Am I scamming people on the internet? These are things we have to know. Morality has a system of grades from A to F, as does the happiness quotient. How are you? Are you happy, or are you faking it? Or are you just getting by day to day? Again, the positive part where I'll finish, I'll wrap this up. I might feel like I'm a D in life right now, or I'm failing at life, or I'm failing at one section. But there's also an E grade. An E grade. An E means empowering. E is for empowerment. I can go from an F to an E if I can only empower myself. It takes consistency. It takes effort on my part. It takes a support system. I need to communicate how I want to change my life, and then I have to actually physically get up and do it. And I have to mentally follow up that. So I can be an E student, an empowered student. Then I can go for a D student. Maybe D can stand for a driving student. I'm going to drive myself towards my next goal, towards my next D. I'm going to drive myself out of this slump, out of this depression, and I'm going to rise up to a C student. And then I'm going to go to a B student. B is for better. I'm going to be better than I was yesterday. It can't happen overnight, but it can happen day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. D, decade after decade. And then I want to be A. I want to achieve things in life. I want to be an awesome husband. I want to be an awesome son. I want to be an awesome grandson. I want to be an awesome martial art practitioner. I want to achieve. And the effect, the A, the effect I can have on the rest of the people around me will outlive me when I die. Long after we're all gone, my deeds, my efforts, my life was worth something. And I have that choice to make it worth something. Good things to think about in this beautiful summer day here in the United States in Ohio. Where do you live? Open up those windows. Go out and get your goals and dreams. Tell the people around you you love them. You can go from a C to an A immediately by doing some kind act. Clean the house randomly. Show up early for work tomorrow. There's 1,000 positive things we can do to change our life if we stick to it.